Perhaps you want to help a Jehovah's Witness who comes to your door, or one you may encounter elsewhere. That is certainly a noble effort. However, your approach might mean the difference between helping them awaken from an environment of undue influence and further entrenching them into the high-demand group that they are mentally trapped in. The more you realize that these folks are sincere, but lost in a sort of mental maze, the more you will be able to empathize. The more you empathize, the more you see their viewpoint, where they are coming from, the more you will be able to help. And as a person from the outside, you might well be better equipped to help than former members, who would automatically be shunned and labeled as evil apostates. As a witness going from door to door, I used to encounter people who would shout Bible verses at me like, John 1:1, John 1:1, or tell me, you're in a cult, and then shut the door. Even some conversations that started out okay would devolve into emotional, angry arguments about doctrine. And because these people didn't understand where I was coming from, I wasn't persuaded in the least. Or whenever I saw a point being made, it didn't last for very long. In the book Combating Cult Mind Control, Stephen Hassan describes his experience as a Mooney. Often in the recruiting work on the streets, he met with hostility. He expected persecution, and receiving such only convinced him that he was on the right path. But what really threw him for a loop was an older Jewish gentleman who invited him off the street to rest up and have a glass of water. That simple act of kindness made him wonder. As a Mooney, everyone on the outside was viewed as controlled by Satan. And yet, here was this man from the outside treating him with tremendous kindness. It's a trite saying, but true. You can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. If you're trying to help a witness, this is the same basic environment you must produce, one that is kind and non-threatening. No matter how irate or offensive they might get, that kindness always needs to be extended. If you act the part of the opposer, no matter how right you are, you have lost the battle. Using the Bible and Christianity as a standard, Jehovah's Witnesses certainly have many points wrong that do not measure up and are not consistent within this framework. However, long doctrinal debates are going for the symptoms, not the cause. Imagine a person who has been shot with a poisoned arrow. Their beliefs are like the poison in the wound, but undue influence is like the arrow that is still lodged inside them. Until you remove the arrow, you cannot get at the poison. Attempts to remove the poison first might actually be counterproductive. And just like removing the arrow, one would need to approach this as a delicate procedure that requires tremendous patience. It is certainly an uphill battle, one that is more likely than not to result in failure. It is unlikely they will take your literature because they are strongly counseled against doing so. In their mind, they are there to teach you, the so-called unbeliever, not the other way around. Understand also, if you did help this person out of the group, what you would be asking them to give up. In most cases, all of a person's friends and most of their family that they're close with are Jehovah's Witnesses, because everyone on the outside is viewed as bad association. If you succeed in getting this person out, more than likely they will lose all of their friends and family, as the group shuns former members. This in many cases has led to broken marriages, and as some have found themselves without the people they love, this shunning has even led to suicide. Do not imagine that within minutes or hours of talking to you, a witness will give up years and decades of indoctrination. Note that when witnesses come to your door, they are often in twos. It is hard to reach people in a group, even if that group is only 2 members, because groupthink can easily take over. A witness will always have to think what the other witness thinks about them, and therefore they might moderate what they say on that basis. Say that you can produce incontrovertible evidence that an everyday person cannot deny. Even if one of this witness pair might see where you are coming from, he might think, that makes sense, but there must be something wrong with me. Besides, we have the truth. He doesn't. Mentally, he will side with his partner. Even if, say, one of the witnesses would instantly recognize the point you are making, despite the reinforcement of having another individual with them, they would be very reticent of what they say. Why? Because if they would agree with you openly on a point that contradicts the teachings of the Watchtower, potentially their partner could report them to the elders. Jehovah's Witnesses have a culture of informing on one another. If another person observes another violating a Watchtower rule, saying buying a lottery ticket or celebrating a holiday or visiting and worshiping at another church, or disagreeing with the Watchtower teaching, then that person is duty-bound to report them to the elders. This might well result in a judicial committee, a secret backroom trial, that results in that person being expelled and shunned by everyone they know. Thus, for best results, it might be best to talk to a witness, one-on-one if you can, where they do not have to contend with groupthink that comes with being a duo, and where they will not be informed on by a peer. Even then, perhaps the best that can be hoped for is to plant a seed of thought, and hope that this seed germinates down the road. If you can leave them with one thought or question that enables them to think, impart it in a kind manner, that might be more effective than what hours of argumentation could ever produce. With Jehovah's Witnesses, it is not the doctrinal trappings that keeps them in. It is the belief that the leaders of the Watchtower are chosen by God as His sole channel. How do they know? Well, the organization has told them so, and that is always the bottom line. If a point of doctrine does not seem quite right, a witness can often fall back on thought-stopping techniques. For instance, like wait on Jehovah. That means they will wait on the Watchtower organization to adjust their teaching, while upholding the teaching until if and when it changes. Or if shown erroneous teachings, practices, or predictions of the past, they might say the light gets brighter and brighter, meaning that the organization moves from darkness to light, and God progressively corrects things as time goes on. A witness might say, if only to themselves, where else would we go? Misquoting John chapter 6, verse 68, meaning despite any problems they see, there is no other organization. A witness might say, who else does fill in the blank, the preaching work, abstaining from warfare, being uniform in belief and worship all over the world? Who else has love among themselves, gives aid during times of disaster, prints and distributes so much literature worldwide, uses the name Jehovah, and so forth? They will point to these works, some that are not truly unique to this group, as proof that they and only they have the truth. Therefore, they set the metric that conforms to the group, and then measure the group according to that metric in a self-referential manner. These are some of the issues that you would have to contend with. Paul said, I became all things to all people. To those under law, I became as under law. To those without law, I became as one without law. To reach a witness, you will have to think as a witness, having empathy toward them, understanding where they are coming from, finding common ground and agreeing where you can. From that common ground, you can then begin to navigate the mental maze that is undue influence.